Today, we're diving into something that's on plates all around the world, rice. But behind every single grain, there's this invisible war going on, a silent battle that could actually threaten our entire food supply. So let's pull back the curtain on the tiny enemies attacking one of the world's most vital crops.
Okay, take a look at this number, 3.5 billion. That's how many people, nearly half the planet, depend on rice as their main source of food, every single day. So yeah, you can see why keeping this crop healthy is a pretty big deal.
So that leads to a pretty scary question, right? What happens when the food that feeds billions of people is constantly under attack? The stakes for global food security couldn't be higher. All right, let's get into it. Section 1, a staple crop order threat. We're going to meet these invisible enemies. So who are the main culprits here? Well, they basically fall into three gangs: fungi, bacteria, and viruses. Each one has its own playbook, its own way of attacking, and they can cause these unique, really devastating diseases that can literally wipe out entire fields. Okay, Section 2. Let's talk about the fungal foes. We'll kick things off with the most common invaders out there. And if we're talking about fungal foes, there's one name that stands out: rice blast. The cause is a fungus called Magnaportha oryzae. And trust me, agricultural scientists all over the world know this one. It's a really formidable enemy, capable of just massive losses in the harvest. So what does this actually look like in a field? Well, farmers are trained to spot these very distinct diamond-shaped spots on the leaves. But the real killer move from this fungus is something called neck rot. It basically strangles the plant right at the base of the grain head, choking off all the nutrients. What you're left with are just empty, totally useless grains.
Moving on to Section 3, bacterial and viral invaders. Yep, fungi aren't the only ones we have to worry about. These guys bring a whole different set of problems to the table.
One of the big ones here is bacterial leaf blight, or BLB for short. The culprit is a bacterium called Xanthomonas oryzae, and this thing is nasty. It absolutely thrives in warm, wet conditions. Exactly the kind of weather you get in a ton of rice-growing areas during monsoon season.
And the signs are really dramatic. The leaves start turning yellow and just drying up. It almost looks like someone took a blowtorch to them, starting right at the tips and creeping downwards. And if it hits young plants, it causes this super fast, deadly wilting that farmers call the crussic phase. It's devastating.
Then you've got the viruses. Tungro disease is a perfect example of how tricky they can be. And what's really fascinating about this one is that it isn't just a single virus. It's actually a two-part problem. You need a complex of two different viruses, RTBV and RTSV, that have to team up to cause the full-blown disease.
Now, unlike fungi that can just float their spores on the wind, Tungro can't travel on its own. It needs a getaway driver, basically. It relies on a little accomplice, an insect vector, to carry it from one plant to the next.
And the process is just brutally effective. You've got this little bug, the green leafhopper. It lands on a sick plant and has a little meal, picking up that virus combo. Then it just flies over to a perfectly healthy plant, starts feeding again, and boom, it injects the viruses. It's like a tiny, flying hypodermic needle spreading disease. The perfect courier.
Okay, so after all that bad news, how do we actually fight back? That brings us to Section 4, the Integrated Defense Strategy. And this isn't about one magic bullet. It's a really smart, multi-layered plan. The official name for it is Integrated Disease Management, or IDM. And I want to be clear, this is not just about grabbing the nearest chemical and spraying everywhere. It's a much bigger, much more holistic approach. The idea is to combine a bunch of different strategies to control these diseases in a way that's actually sustainable for the farmer and the planet.
So what does that look like? Well, the foundation is all about what you might call smart farming. Cultural and biological controls. Things like rotating your crops so diseases don't build up in the soil. Making sure plants have enough space between them for good airflow. Cleaning up infected plants and weeds. And even using nature to your advantage, like encouraging the natural enemies of pests, like that pesky green leafhopper we just talked about. On top of that foundation, we add some more direct tools. This is where modern science really shines, like breeding new types of rice that are naturally resistant to some of these diseases. And yeah, chemicals are part of the toolkit. But, and this is a big but, a core idea of IDM is using them judiciously. That means only when you absolutely have to, and only when it'll make the biggest impact, not just spraying on a schedule. So let's do a quick recap.
For that fungal rice blast, using resistant rice varieties is your best bet. For the bacterial blight, it's about resistant plants plus smart water management. And for tongue grow, that viral disease, it's all about controlling its taxi service, that little green leafhopper. You see, different problem, different solution.
All right, our final section, protecting the world's harvest. Because as we've seen, this goes way beyond just farming techniques. This is a truly global issue.
And if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this quote right here. It's all about combining approaches. There's no silver bullet. The only way we can protect our future rice harvest is with this smart, sustainable, multi-pronged attack. It's the classic case of working smarter, not just harder. Which, leaves us with one last big question to think about. In a world where the climate is constantly changing and these diseases are evolving into new strains, how do we make sure our strategies evolve too? Because this battle is never really won. We have to keep innovating to make sure that those 3.5 billion people, and really all of us, can count on having food on the table.